Good evening. Good evening and welcome to a regular meeting of the Oak Harbor City Council. Tonight is March 3rd, 6 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order at this time and invite you to stand and join us in an invocation tonight led by Pastor James Cutter of Church of the Rock, and I will follow that by leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Well, we might go right on to the Pledge of Allegiance, it looks like. So, okay, please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'd like to come back to now. I guess we have a couple of our council members who couldn't be with us tonight, Councilor Heisen and Mayor Pro Tem Munns. So I would entertain a motion to excuse them. Yes, Councilor Servadius.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to excuse council members Heisen and Munns.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to excuse Council Member Heisen and Munns. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. And we'll move on then at this time to our agenda. And unless somebody would like to change up the agenda some, we'll just move on as presented. So we'll go to item 2, presentations. And tonight we have, under honors and recognitions, we've got some people from our fire department, and I see our Fire Chief Merrill coming to the podium. I'll let the chief introduce those tonight.
Thanks, Mayor.
You bet, Chief.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. So tonight is my privilege to honor some folks that have worked for our department for quite a few years. 2 of those members couldn't make it this evening, but the other 4 are here. And when you add up all of their years of service, it's 145 years of service to the city. So pretty doggone good numbers. So the first one I want to talk with was Shannon. So I'm going to pick them individually, if that's all right with all of you. And then, come on up. So Shannon has been with us for 15 years, and I asked her, I said, what do you want me to say about you, Shannon? And she said, I'm awesome. So you're awesome. As I said, Shannon's been here 15 years. She's one of our drivers. She works on the D-shift program, so she spends nights at the station. She comes down and she works hard. When she first came on the department, she said, I want to give this a shot, but I don't know if I can do it. And 15 years later, she's still here. So she's done a fantastic job for us. You may see her, of course, at Whidbey Coffee occasionally. She does have her husband in the audience and her 3 children. Anything you'd care to say?
I really like working at the fire department. I am not there very often lately because I manage at Whidbey Coffee, but and I don't really know what's going on anymore because I'm not hardly there. And when I do show up, I feel like I'm still coming into home. Like it's still home. Everybody's very welcoming, and I love it, and that's why I like being there. So I love the fire department.
There's 15 years? Oh, that's not good enough. This is better. You can keep that. So, for another 15 years is Angela Bronstein. Angela wrote her own bio.
Yes, she did. PowerPoint.
And she's saying I made her, which is true, I did. And she said, I have the best job in the city. And I think we have one of the best employees in the city. You see the results of her work when you look at the annual reports, when you look at the flyers that come out for the Wellness Committee. She works on the Wellness Committee tirelessly. I mean, she does a lot of work for that group. She works extremely hard for us over the years. There is not a question that you go in and ask her that she won't find the answer to. And she put in here, I get to work with amazing people who support and appreciate me. And it's a two-way street because she does so much for us collectively, not just the department, but for the city. Kevin has even stole her from me a couple times. And then he comes back later and he says, "You don't mind that, do you?" But you look at the work that she does, and it's just absolutely phenomenal. She's a pleasure to have in the department. There's so many things I ask her to do that she makes it look so easy. And everybody says, she just makes us look dumb. She's so quick about doing something. She's so quick on the computers. We appreciate you. We appreciate everything that you do. In the 15 years with us. Thank you. So the next one is Steve McCalmont. Steve's kind of a newbie with this. When Steve first started, he didn't have a bit of gray hair in his head.
Or my mustache.
Yeah, he started with us in 1990, coming from Central Whidbey. He has been with us both as a paid on call. Back in those days, it was D shift and volunteer, and then became one of our career firefighters. He's one of our driving instructors. He's got his firefighter 1. I rely on Steve for a lot of projects. I say, "Steve, we need to do," and it's done. And I appreciate his willingness to help. He's very mechanically inclined, which helps us immensely. Give him projects to do, and I forget about it. I don't have to worry about it getting done. And Steve is just a really good, solid, strong employee that I enjoy having around the fire station. So it's a pleasure to have him here. He's one of our senior firefighters. He fills in a senior role, mentoring new firefighters and working with the new staff. So it's just a pleasure to have him here. So with that, and 30 years of service, that's for you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'd like to first thank God for letting me do this and putting me where I need to be. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be able to do what I do. And the second person I need to thank is my wife of 43 years, as next week it will be 43 years. She's put up with missing a lot of parties, movies, leaving her sit without a car, trying to find her way home from downtown as we go to a call in the days. She's put up with a lot for those years. Also, Chief Merrill, thank you very much for what you do for our department and what you do for our city. I know people don't have a clue what Chief Merrill does down for our fire department and for our city. He is an amazing man. He has taught me most all those mechanical things that I know how to do and helped me move forward on most every project that's ever gotten done at my house or at the fire station. He is a great mentor, and you don't know what you've got. You don't know. Thank you.
I was amiss. Angela, did you want to speak? You're good? Okay. So the next one is Rich Rogers. Rich, come on up. So Rich, 45 years. But you know, I did some research, and I wondered really how long Rich has been in the department. So if you take a look at the picture, that was Rich brand new in the department.
I remember that day.
You remember that day, the snow on the ground.
Was.
The other thing I saw in there that I missed to begin with, the person running along the side on the left, that's Steve. But Rich was one of our first EMTs. He was one of our first paramedics long, long ago in the department. He teaches EMT. He teaches at the college. He teaches CPR at the college. He's one of our command officers. And he's one is, let's get to work. We've got things to do. Tell me what you want. I'm ready, and I'm not going to slow down. We had a fire the other day, and he was just as busy as could be. It's hard to believe that we're brothers. We look good together. But it's been a pleasure working with Rich, his 45 years in the department, and I'm looking forward to some more years. I don't know if we'll get 45 more out of you.
Not quite.
But we're quite happy with everything that you do. It's a pleasure working with you. I know when I first came here many, many years ago, Rich was kind of standoffish a little bit. And he would ask me questions like, does this guy really know what he's talking about? And I think he was testing me, and I think I passed.
You did.
So it's a pleasure working with you. I'm glad you've been here.
We're going to keep you.
You're going to keep me. So 45 years with the department, that's for you, and your chance to speak if you like.
Thank you. I'd just like to say thank you, Mayor, council members, for your support. We have a great family down at the fire department, and I think that's why I've been there so long. Like Ray said, we all help each other. we have such a diverse amount of people there. We have plumbers, we have builders, we have mechanics, we have everybody that works there, so everybody helps each other with projects. So it's a great place to be, and that's why I've been there so long. So thank you very much.
And we had two others that couldn't make it this evening, Robert Barenbaugh and Jeff Heiserman, both with 15 years of service with us. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. On behalf of the administration here, I want to say thank you to the entire department for making Oak Harbor one of the safest cities in the state. In fact, it's #1, and that's partly about what you do and what the police department does also. So thank you very much. We feel safe because of you, and I can't tell you enough. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor.
Any council want to say anything? Or? Okay, thanks again. Appreciate it. We'll see you in another 45 years. Okay, we'll move on then to our section 3 of our agenda, which is citizen comment period. This is the time when citizens may comment on subjects of interest not listed on the agenda or items listed on the consent agenda. To ensure comments are recorded properly, please state your name clearly into the microphone. Please also limit your comments to 3 minutes to ensure all citizens have sufficient time to speak. So we're open now for citizen comments.
Good evening. My name is James Chairman. I was up here last time we had a meeting when we were discussing the costs of mostly the sewage is what I wanted to address. It comes to close to $25 million a year in just sewage removal. I still was hoping you found some information which might clear up as to why that is so high, and was any progress made on your comments that you're going to sit down with each other and try to find out some more information about how the billing was, how high the rates were going to be increased, and when they're going to be increased. I think that's pretty much it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else for citizen comments? Okay, seeing none, we will close the citizen comment period, and we'll move on. I think that I can respond rather quickly, but we have an ongoing discussion between our staff regarding the rates that will come back actually to council at I believe our next meeting scheduled for the 17th. Oh, that's right. Okay, at the workshop. I'm sorry, on March 25th. So we're going to actually have a workshop with council and staff to discuss the rates on it. So it's a continuing conversation that's going on. Okay. We will move now then to the consent agenda. Section 4 on the agenda, we have items A through E. And if nobody wants to, Councilor Servadius.
This might be for Miss Brown there, Carla. Minutes from our last meeting, are those forthcoming? At the next one, okay, thanks.
Okay. Okay. Any input, questions? And I'm wondering if we have our newly appointed Planning Commission member with us tonight. And I think maybe we do. Christy Southard. Welcome and thank you for joining our Planning Commission. And we'll be seeing you again soon, I'm sure. Thank you for coming tonight also. Okay, we'll move on then past the consent agenda to the mayor and council and city administrator comments. I'll start off with announcing that the National League of Cities Conference is March 8th through 11th. This year, 2 of our council members will attend. Councilor Servadius and Councilor Heisen will be attending the National Cities Conference. In addition, Mayor Pro Tem Munns and I will join the two council members on March 12th in Washington, D.C. to meet with Navy leadership at the Pentagon to discuss the ongoing relationship between NAS Whidbey and Oak Harbor. We also will be talking certainly about our clean water facility, housing, Navy budget impacts, and the status of military construction. So try to do that annually. That will take place this year on March 12th. So then on March 17th, it's St. Patty's Day, St. Patrick's Day, and the annual St. Patrick's Day Parade by the Whidbey Island Irish Wildlife Society. Try to say that really fast. See how you. They'll host the 47th annual St. Patty's Day Parade in Oak Harbor. Is that right? 47th annual parade for St. Patty's Day. Anyway, it's on Pioneer Way. That happens to be a city council day. That's Tuesday, March 17th. That parade will begin at 4 p.m. The parade traditionally is the first parade of the year, fun family event, and following the parade there will be a corned beef and cabbage Irish dinner at the American Legion Hall at a cost of $10 a plate, so all in the community are welcome. Our next meetings are March 17th for a regular city council meeting, and that'll be an evening meeting, and then our workshop, which will be our city council on the 17th will start at 6 o'clock, like this meeting did, and then our workshop meeting will be March 25th, and that'll be here also starting at 5 o'clock. So with that, that concludes my comments. We will turn to council. Councilor Servadius.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of quick things that I would like to attend to. One, Ms. Munns could not be here tonight, but she asked me to make a motion on her behalf, so I'm happy to do that, and I can discuss it further if I get a second. The motion would read as follows. I move to instruct staff to reinstate monthly status reports on the Clean Water Facility punch list.
Second.
Okay. We've got a motion and a second.
So what a little bit I know, one of her concerns, I think, was the camera system, and she just wanted to get regular updates on that. So she asked, since she couldn't be here tonight, if I would make that motion, and then if we could get some kind of a recurring monthly update during the council meetings on, it's been a little over a year since we commissioned that, so just where we're at.
Okay, any questions about that input? Want to read the, any need to read it again, or we'll just go for a vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you. One more.
Councilor Servadius, go
And this is a motion on my behalf. I move to instruct staff to provide a report at our next council meeting with options to replace our current hearings examiner.
Second.
Okay. Got a motion for, at the next meeting, what's that?
Yes, so the motion was I move to instruct staff to provide a report at our next council meeting with options to replace our current hearings examiner.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? Got a motion and a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Wow, we're on a roll. Okay. Okay, other, yes, Councilor Rivers.
Thank you, Mayor. We are in the process of working on our biennial budget, and that is a long, arduous process. We've had some meetings on that. We had a full-day retreat talking about that, and I just want to address one of things that I want to make sure that we at least have a more rigorous discussion on, and that is homelessness in our city. It's not something that we experience just in the city or just on our island. It's in Island County. It's a significant issue, and it takes a significant effort to address it. And that effort has been ongoing. A number of entities, private, churches, individuals have gotten together and are working really hard and doing an extraordinary amount of work to address this issue. I'm not suggesting that the city take that over by any means. They're doing a great job as they are. What I'm saying is I would like to see the city come alongside and partner with those who are already doing the job and do so in a manner that reflects our commitment to addressing this issue. In 2019, Island County gave $238,000 to the Would-Be Homeless Coalition. $144,000 of that went directly to the Haven. We did, after many discussions last year, because we did not have a budget item, we were able to give $9,000 to the Haven, and that was a step in the right direction. The year before that, as a city, we gave them $5,000. The 3 years before that, we gave them $0. The cost to run the Haven is over about $240,000 a year. They get input monetarily from Island County, from private donors, grants, in-kind donations, and a lot of things that are being donated are time and space. They are open 365 days a year. They provide a place that is safe and warm for people who need some help. Last year, 187 people were served throughout the course of the year. 44 of those found housing. This is a program that not just gives somebody a hot and a cot for the night, but plugs them into necessary services to help them get back on their feet. Another significant number of those 187, about 70 of those, so that's over a third, were women and children. This is not usual in these kind of shelters because women and children don't often feel safe. The people at the Haven have an extraordinary relationship with our police department. It is a relationship that is reciprocal. They help one another. They have an extraordinary relationship with local businesses, local churches, and the dozens and dozens of people who donate their time and effort. What I'm looking for, I'm looking for people to call, write, email us, let us know your thoughts, but I'm looking for a line item in the budget for the next couple of years to the tune of about $40,000 a year to make a dent and to come alongside and do our share. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Larson. Councilor Weiser.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank Christy for stepping up and volunteering. Volunteers are the lifeblood of any community, and I appreciate you taking the time and stepping up, and I hope you find it to be an interesting set of challenges ahead of you. Appreciate it.
Rewarding challenge.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, that concludes council members' comments. We'll move to the city administrator, Mr. Oborn.
Yes, certainly in the community, coronavirus continues to be an issue. I will continue to provide information to council as it comes available. Quite a lot of information in the last 2 days, and we'll continue to implement recommendations coming from the county health department and from the state. So we'll continue to revise things as procedures as this progresses. So kind of reiterating the rate study issue, just to make sure, I think we talked about it, but we appreciate the comment that most of the council members have provided, and we'll continue to, the finance director continue to have those comments and options ready for when we do our meeting. We talked about a special meeting, but it made more sense to just do it at the workshop, so it'll be the primary part of the workshop the regular workshop on March 25th. So just make sure the audience is aware of that. Police chief, it was asked about at the smoking ordinance was brought up. The police chief is working on that and certainly can provide you more update on that and determine when we bring that back. And working with legal, he's taking the lead on that, just to answer your question on the status of that raised at the last workshop meeting. And then at the last workshop meeting, it was asked about the reorganization. Has some very, very, very draft ideas that I'm just kind of kicking around and probably will continue to work on, and certainly will keep council involved in the process. And this is all part of the due to the recent 2 retirements in the Public Works key supervising staff that are retiring. So certainly we got to look at how we fill those positions. And so certainly, and then certainly we had on Friday last week a really good send-off for 2 retirees here at City Hall, one at City Hall and one at Public Works. And so we commend them for their years of service. And that concludes my report.
Okay. We will then at this time move on to our public hearings and meetings, section 6. Item A is Resolution 2005, adopting the 2020 Comprehensive Plan Amendments docket. Looks like we have our senior planner, Kat Kamak, with us. Kat, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. Kat Kamak, Senior Planner. Short presentation on the comprehensive plan amendments. We do this every year. The reason we have a process to do this is because the RCWs allow cities like us to amend our comprehensive plan only once a year. So we have this process so we can kind of collect our thoughts and go through the discussion and review process before we actually amend our plan. So the docket process started in October of last year. There's a call for amendments, so a public notice that goes out, and then we collect any applications and collect comments from Planning Commission and the City Council, and then we create this docket, and then it moves through a hearing process with the Planning Commission and the City Council. So what's on the docket for 2020? We have a land use map change for one of the properties that the city recently came to own, and this is the 75 acres of land acquired by the Gun Club Road, north end of the city. The property is currently zoned for a business park, an industrial business park, and because the city wants to have a park there, we should probably change the designation more to public facilities, which can accommodate that use. So we'll go through the land use change, and we have to follow the process just like everybody else that requests a land use change and review against the criteria, et cetera. So we'll do that this year. We'll update the capital improvements plan. This is an annual update. As you know, recently there's comments about the budget. Every year there's budget changes. So there's also project changes. We add a year to the plan because it's a 6-year moving window with the capital improvements plan. We also have the inclusion of the transportation benefit district this year. So a lot of changes in the capital improvement plan, and we'll go through and review that this year. Housing element, this is a big issue throughout Washington, and as you're aware, we've already applied for a grant with the Department of Commerce. We've got that grant, and that's in progress right now, so we'll see a lot of momentum this summer with that project. JPA UGA, so this is a request that the City Council had to the county to get that on the docket for their consideration. They did that, so we're working with the Island County staff, and there are some discussions in how to move that forward because it's their comprehensive plan amendment, so they kind of control the schedule a little bit, but we're in discussions with them. There'll be some back and forth discussions before they move forward on that. So all of that will be addressed this year. All the docket items are reviewed against the criteria. Most of these items meet the criteria, so I won't go into them in detail. They just check for conformance with our comprehensive plan policies and so on. The timeline for this, the Planning Commission had a public hearing in February. They recommended that the City Council adopt the docket. We had a workshop at the February meeting with the City Council, and here we are at the public hearing. So once the docket is adopted, we'll have several discussions on all these items with the Planning Commission. There'll be workshops with the City Council, and then when we get later into the year, we'll go into the adoption process. So with that, our recommendation tonight is to hold a public hearing, take any comments, and after discussion, we hope that you adopt the docket and get us working on the 2020 amendments. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
So we'll first, I guess, open that public hearing at this time. See if the public would have any input or questions? If not, then we will bring Mr. Kamak back and ask the council. Councilor Larson?
Thank you, Mayor. I move to adopt the 2020 Comprehensive Plan Amendment docket items as presented.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second to adopt the comprehensive plan amendment docket items as presented. Seeing no further input or questions, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. That was brief. Thank you, Mr. Kamak. We appreciate that. We will now move on out of section 6 and past 7 to contracts and agreements. Item number 8A is interlocal agreement, Island County Transportation Benefit District Planning, and we have our city engineer, Mr. Jim Bridges.
Thank you, Mayor,
Welcome, Jim.
Council. So this is basically the same presentation I put on Wednesday at the workshop with one small edit, but we'll go through it. The agreement tonight is for the interlocal agency agreement with Island County to provide services to support our 2020 Transportation Benefit District projects and our 2020 street overlay projects. So how we got here, essentially, as we all know, the public approved our Transportation Benefit District sales tax, and we staff and the council wanted to move forward with this as fast as we could to get some projects out developed this year, and so we had staff contacted Island County Public Works to see if they were interested or if they could provide any of the services, and I was surprised. They do the chip sealing, but they also provide contracting services for the asphalt overlay. And so our project for the 2020 Benefit District, Transportation Benefit District is 5.6 lane miles of chip seal and 1 lane mile of overlays for local residential streets. For the street overlay program, 2020 street overlay program, they will prepare the bids for the reconstruction of about 850 feet of Fort Nugent Road, which is the worst section around that curve. And then the remaining 1,700 feet of Fort Nugent will be ground down and asphalt overlay on top of that. And then one other street project that we initially identified, my staff initially identified as part of the TBD, we determined it was actually a classified roadway and is not eligible for TBD funding, was 2,100 feet of Laurelland Drive that will be overlaid as well. So here's a map of the projects, and let's see, this red circle up here, this circle with the red lines in it, this is the area where we're going to do the chip sealing this year. That's the 5.6 miles of chip sealing in this neighborhood. This area right in here, these are the residential overlays. There's this one, and then there's one right in here, and then this is Laurelland right here, and then obviously this is Fort Nugent down in this location right here. So that's the map of the area, and we'll work with utility billing and get this map out to the residents, let them know that these are the projects that we're going to be doing. Try to put it in a flyer in the utility billing. So. This was the engineer's estimate from Island County. This document has been updated. At the workshop, I presented one that had not been updated. This has the correct amount of 1.2 million. Let me get right to it here. $1,224,565.62. That is the county's estimate to do the work. As I explained at the workshop, they have some numbers in there that I consider to be their estimate to be quite high. For instance, the asphalt is about $165 a ton asphalt. We usually estimate about 110, 125. We see it come in that range for bidding purposes as well. So there's a little bit of fat built into this estimate, as well as a 7% contingency to bring it to that total $1.2 million. This is the how we'll cost allocate out that money to the different funds. The TBD fund has not been set up yet by finance. That's to be set up when the money starts coming in. They'll set up the funds. They'll come to council, and I believe, and set up that revenue funding. source, and then the expenditure funding as well. But so, and the cost allocation, as you can see, it's about $415,487 of that estimate is cost allocated to the TBD program. And for the 2020 street overlay, it's $809,078.47. So that's how that 1.2 million adds up and is be allocated to the separate funds. And if you have any questions, I'll take them. So pretty sweet, or short, sweet, and to the point.
So just before we do that, we'll see if the public that's here has any questions. Okay, seeing none, we'll, counsel? Counselor Servadius.
Thank you. Mr. Bridges, you've used the statement twice that estimates are quite high.
Yes.
Who holds them accountable? How are we going to monitor that?
On those estimates from the county?
Yeah,
themselves?
I mean, if we get billed at 100 and whatever for the asphalt, I mean, I'm channeling Rick Allenberg here. Help me feel comfortable if we know or we assume they're high, why would we agree to that number?
Well, so typically when you put an estimate together, or as we're supposed to call them, engineer's opinion of probable cost, because we don't know what the bidding climate is, right? And so typically, the county held open their bidding process for us this year. This bid should have gone out earlier in the year to get that better bid price. And so the later in the year, the higher you estimate, because of the contractors are typically busier at that point in time when the work's going out. And so that's why you bump up that estimate. Why the county chose their 165 for asphalt, I don't know. Again, typically number I would use is 115 to 120, 125, somewhere in that neighborhood. And then it depends on the price of oil. So asphalt is an oil-based product. And what usually happens is asphalt contractors, they, earlier in the year, at the beginning of the year, or towards the end of the year, they go to the local agencies and they give us an estimate of what your workload is going to be like, so they can get an idea of how much asphalt oil they have to buy from their suppliers. And then that price is they'll go to their suppliers, and then based upon the price, they'll buy it and set it aside. So we don't know what that price is, but in a high year, that asphalt oil may be $600, $700, $800 a ton. On a normal year, you're in the $350 to $500 a ton for asphalt, and so that's why you get this variation in asphalt estimate prices. So it's a number that's tough to bid to pin down. So you usually bid it pretty high, hoping that it, when we see the gas prices at the pump, that doesn't have any effect on us. It's the previous, cost.
We'll keep an eye on it. Thank you. The other question I had was, there's two maps in here in our packet. They're on page, I think it was 50, they're stamped 56, so. I'm trying to get the page to update. Page 56 and 57 of our packet, they're the Island County overlay maps. It looks like they're the ones they provided only for the overlays on Fort Nugent and Laurelland predominantly.
Right.
My question was, one, what program do they use? Because these are gorgeous maps. Can we get something like this when we do our maps?
This is probably using their GIS system.
Okay, they're gorgeous maps, but more from a educational standpoint to get this out to the public. Do they have then one for the chip seal section as well?
We can certainly make a map that's more readable, and we can request it to the county as well. We have the same GIS database.
Won't they be doing the work? Have they already done that map probably, if they're going to be doing the chip sealing?
I don't think so. That work is done in-house. This work is done prepared for the contractor.
Okay.
Give the contractor more of a vicinity map.
They're very clean. They're great maps. It'd be nice to use these,
Okay.
get these out to the public. So if they've got one, I mean, you've got the overlay sections. If we've got one for the chip seal, I'd love to have it too, just to be able to share with folks. So
Right.
that's all. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilor Wiesner.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make sure I understand. So this is engineer's estimates here, and we're actually working on a pass-through contract with Island County?
Yes.
So it's just going to be passed through to us at their cost. The only expense, it looks like we got a little bit of contract management
Right.
that will reimburse them on an hourly basis. Otherwise, it's just a pass-through. Right?
That's correct. So the numbers that are in the estimate, that's their estimate. It may be higher, it may be lower. My gut tells me it'll be lower. But there is that contract management, which is probably one of the nicer things about this. So once the project goes out to bid, They manage that contractor for us. They make sure they're following all the state laws, prevailing wage laws, and all the things that has to be done during contract management. And I think it's a pretty reasonable price. I think it's about $7,500 is what
Yeah.
their estimate is. So we plan on taking advantage of that on upcoming projects as well. Their expertise and their personnel to help us with that work.
Well, I want to make sure I point out that, you know, not only are we piggybacking them and their bidding process, which of course bidding process costs us money, we're getting in on their volume, and we're being able to get contractors kind of going on this fairly immediately because they've kind of already started that process a bit. So we're able to put our TBD funds to work quite immediately. And also I want to point out that we are using funds from our street overlay fund, which was existing. We haven't taken those funds and used them elsewhere. They're going for street overlay, and it's the addition of the TBD funds that are allowing us to do this additional work, as well as being able to piggyback Island County's probably most likely cheaper price because of the volume they're doing.
That's correct. It's a great point. And one thing I need to point out as well is the length of the road that I spoke about earlier for the TBD. That's 5.6 lane miles. If you remember back to our earlier discussions and our presentations, the city has 103 lane miles of residential streets in the TBD program. So this only represents, approximately 5% of that. Next year, and when I say next year, by October, we have to have numbers to the county for our next year's work program, which we'll be presenting to City Council as well in August or September to submit those numbers to the county. We're looking to triple that number of lane miles to 15, 16 lane miles next year. Again, it was just passed this past November. We don't get money until June. The work will be completed. Another thing I should point, the work for the chip seal will be completed in August and September of this year. The overlays will be done in June and July. And so we need to, the county actually puts together their program in October. So we have to have our information to them October so that, as we talked about estimates, we can have that out to the contractors for winter bidding so that they know what they got ahead of themselves going into the spring and summertime. So.
Well, I just want to add too, I drove through Shadow Glen today, and certainly the neighborhood deserves that work on the streets. They're pretty rough through there, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other input or questions? Okay, so, yes, Councillor Wassinger.
Sure. I'll make a motion to authorize the mayor to enter into an interlocal agreement with Island County to provide services for the 2020 TBD project and the 2020 street overlay project for the city of Oak Harbor.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second that reads exactly like the recommended action in our packet here. Motion by Councillor Wassinger, second by Councillor Larson. Any other input or questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bridges. We will move on to our last item for the evening. Item number 10A is an update on jail status 2019 operational changes. We have our police chief here, Chief Dresker. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. So I don't have a graphic for this, but you all received the packet with the information in there. A couple months ago, I just decided I wanted to put together some data to provide to you. You voted and authorized some changes. I think it was in June of last year or May. We started shipping some of our inmates to Yakima in June. And so I wanted to go over some data with you so that you're aware. And although you've all looked at it, I'll go ahead and read it just for the record here, if you don't mind. Skip some of the writing that I did up here, but one of the nice things that we found is when we first looked at doing this, we thought we were going to have to transport our inmates over to Skagit County and then do the transportation. Yakima, right off the bat, said, no, we'll come to your city and do the transfers. So they come here to pick up our inmates and do the process. So that was kind of nice. Also, when I made the proposal last year and anticipated what I thought we'd spend for a Yakima contract for a year, The proposal indicated approximately 113,400, and we didn't have a full year. We had basically June through December. But if I took all that and tried to average it out for the remaining months that we hadn't had the contract, based on generic numbers, would have been about 110,500. So our numbers were pretty good there. This year, of course, 2020 will be the first full year on that contract, so we'll see what happens with this year. One of the things we did is if we had a choice to make, we erred on the side of sending him to Yakima rather than to see what that would look like for dollars. So we weren't being skimpy on the dollars trying to save by not doing that. So, and they were all based on operational needs too. So going over this, what I did is I just took the data. The total jail expenditures for 2018 is the top one you see there, 766,000. I'm going to leave off the tail end dollars if you don't mind. $766,000. Our total jail expenditures for 2019 was $637,000. The difference, which means less money spent in 2019, was around $130,000. And I did talk to Patricia, and you got to remember this was given to you, I think, mid-month. There could be trickle items coming in for the last couple of weeks, so that number could have gone down, but probably not drastically. The money allocated when we first started doing our budget process for 2019 jail budget was $817,000. So basically the difference, the money we did not spend that we, I guess, saved in 2019 was around $187,000 under our budgeted amount. So the changes we made realized some savings there for us. Now, of course, we also know we are authorized 2 additional police officers. That's not included. I've just given you the jail budget here, not the overall budget for the department, although we were slightly under on our budget. The average daily bed count, the people we kept here in Oak Harbor, was an average daily population of 1.12 people per day, averaged out over the year. The average daily bed count that was that served time in Yakima was 2.78 persons per day. So our total for both was about 3.9. It's kind of curious because, well, I'll get to the next number here. Our total days served in Yakima and Oak Harbor Police Department jail combined was 1,426 days served jail time. And this is misdemeanors. So our felonies go to Island County. And we were not holding felonies in our facility at all. As I look back at 2018, 2017, 2016, and I'm sorry you don't have these figures, but the number of total days served in 2018 was 1,807, so we went down that many days. And then it was 1,870 days served in 2017, 2,136 in 2016, so it's gone down, the number of days served. However, the number of inmates that, total inmates for the year in 2016 was 251, 2017 253, 2018 304, and the total inmates in 2019 was 319. So they went up, even though days served go down on a graph. Only went up by about 10 or so, 15, and those are inmates that served time either both in Yakima and in our PD. Anybody that went to Yakima were initially booked into our department and then sent on the bus to Yakima. Why are those numbers like that? You know, we have no control over days served. That's by judges and by crime. My guess is it probably means more inmates and more nuisance type of crimes where they were serving less days than the bigger crimes. And one thing that's not on here, I just want to make sure I reiterate to you folks, and we've experienced it here in the last week or two because we've seemed to run into a lot of guys and gals with warrants. We book all of our misdemeanor warrants, and they either stay here or they go to Yakima, and we're unique because nobody else around us does that. They get somebody with a misdemeanor warrant. Most of the time, they don't go to jail on a misdemeanor warrant. So we talked about that when we made this change. Our department and you folks all said we need to hold people accountable. So if somebody has a misdemeanor warrant in Oak Harbor, they're going to jail, barring some extraordinary circumstance. Total days served in Oak Harbor PD was 410, so that's the inmates we kept here, that's how many total days they served. And then the total number of days we did not have somebody in the facility for a full day was like 79, but we could have had some for half a day and then they got out. We counted that as time where we didn't have somebody in our facility. And then I just wanted to point out that if we had 0 in our facility and we had a jail or corrections officer who called in sick or wanted to take that day off, we did not backfill that staff, paying overtime for that person or bringing somebody else in. It only happened a few times, but Island County Jail worked very well with us, the sheriff and their jail staff. If we had that situation and somebody came in, rather than us having to call somebody in for overtime to come work the jail then, because we'd have one person in the jail, we could take them down to Island County on the misdemeanor and they'd hold them until we had our person come in on the next shift. So we only had to do that once, but we arranged it several times with them, which made our situation much better. And didn't have to, we'd have called somebody in, but it was a much better arrangement and they're very collaborative with us on that. So we appreciated that very much. And that's it. I'm hoping for questions.
Councilor Larson.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, there's a couple of things I just want to say. I have no questions. I just wanted to express my appreciation for your constant diligence and your commitment to fiduciary responsibility. In addition to always taking the long look at procedures and how we can save money, how we can do things better, how we can streamline processes, you've also been able to build significant partnerships that have benefited mutually us and those people that like Island County and like the Yakima jails, and you've done an extraordinary job behind the scenes of really safeguarding your people, the processes, and the taxpayer dollars. And I just want to say I appreciate the ongoing efforts that you and your department continue to put forth in that area. Thank you.
Thank you. And quite a bit of work on the jail was done by Captain Bailey, who coordinates our jail corrections. So he's worked a lot with this too, as has Captain Wilkie. And Brian Bronstein, who's our jail sergeant.
Councilor Zerbanian.
Thank you as well, Chief. One of the interesting things you hit on it, those total number of inmates may be up because we're booking for a misdemeanor warrant. And I remember when I learned last year at some point running around there doing phones or something, I was very intrigued. I don't know if it was you or someone else said there's a lot of jurisdictions that don't confirm those misdemeanor warrants. Can you touch on that, why they might not, and why I guess I'm proud of the fact that we do, but I found that to be a very interesting statistic or statement that a lot of our partnering jurisdictions may not.
Yeah, it's you can sum it up with financial. I mean, if it's a jail that doesn't have space to book people, Island County unfortunately has a jail that's always maxed out in capacity. So how can you get more people in there unless you have some, we're fortunate that we have the Yakima contract because we can send, quite a number of people there. But so it's financial. It's when you talk about shipping from other locations for our warrants, you do groups, you do different geographic areas you'll ship from and all that. So there's financial with transport too. But most of it comes down to jail space and cost to house somebody. But really, I think it just comes down mostly to jail space. But it's all financial. Our opinion, and I think maybe if you got past financial with a lot of law enforcement organizations or cities, if we have I can name multiple, or I can think of multiple times, just like this last week, where we go and we get somebody on a misdemeanor warrant. If we'd have let them go, they're not being held accountable for that. They're probably out committing additional crimes. I think we got one today where we picked him up. He had 3 warrants from out of this area. He had 1 from our area. He had a DOC warrant. And then lo and behold, as he's arrested and all that, there's also a firearm involved. So oftentimes you'll find narcotics on these guys too when you arrest them, so they're into more stuff. And most of the time when they're not booked, it's financial because of jail space or costs. And we had that discussion when we looked at it, and that was, we wanted to be able to do that rather than find somebody out there who's usually come in front of us because they're committing some other kind of a problem. And rather than just say, okay, you got a warrant, we can't take you because we don't have jail space. We can, and we do. And so if they're in Oak Harbor, they know they're going to probably go to jail if it's one of our warrants. If it's a warrant from somewhere else that's not confirming, we don't arrest them. unless they have something else that we can identify, so.
So thank you for that, and I think it's important for the public to know. It sends a strong message, and I think it's a positive message that if you've got a warrant here, you'll go to jail. So thank you, Chief, for all, and thank your team.
And I had one other thing I'd like to mention about Yakima. So one of the things that we found nice too is there's been at least 2 cases with somebody who with mental health issues that when they got over there, Yakima, in fact, one, the person was supposed to get out, but they needed some mental health evaluation and treatment. And Yakima didn't have to, but they were real good with working down there with the mental health people to get this person some treatment and help. I know of at least 2 cases with that, where that's occurred. So that's been a plus, and plus the medication and stuff, they're able to do all that in the facility there.
Councilor Wassinger?
Thank you for bringing that up. I was just thinking that I know back when you started really working on looking at our jail and you spoke with us, your biggest concerns were safety of your department's employees working in the jail and the safety of the inmates and anyone that was in our jail. And part of that was having access to certain amenities such as mental health, all sorts of safety procedures. So with this process, do you feel that those areas have improved as far as safety for our employees and the inmates?
Yes, we've reduced our, in our facility too, which is, it's helped with a lot of different factors within our realm. But when our officers, generally, we're having a very minimal amount, so we truly are a very minimal hold facility and truly under 30 days, and where before it wasn't like that. So what our staff has to deal with is not that person sitting in there for a year and that kind of thing. It's those people that we're keeping for short-term stuff because they only have a week to serve, or we're going to send them to Yakima or whatever. So we've had a decreased population, as you can see by the numbers, and decreased issues because of that. And then inmates, we provided them assistance that we could here. Yakima deals with it on more of a mass quantity scale, so they have a system in place, a systemic thing that happens. I don't think inmates would prefer to stay here as to go to Yakima for multiple reasons. But once they get there, Yakima has procedures and processes in place to help deal with stuff. I don't know if it's a cure-all for an inmate, but if they see somebody over there who absolutely needs mental health needs, one of their protocols is to evaluate that and see what they can do to assist on that. It's hard to put numbers to it. I definitely, with our staff and with the inmates, I think the same. It certainly hasn't decreased.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. That it's always good to get some additional information. We certainly appreciate what you and your department do every day, every night. Thank you. Any other business questions? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Councilor Surveyor?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Didn't see any opposed. We are adjourned.